In June 2025, a massive sci-fi looking drone is set to complete its first flight in Xi'an. According to the CCP, the drone is capable of releasing hundreds of smaller drones at high altitudes for swarm attacks, electronic interference, and deep strikes, heralding the era of aerial drone motherships. Foreign media, military analysts, and even experts within its own system have begun quietly raising a discordant note. Can this thing really be used in warfare? The Jiutian aircraft has a wingspan of 25 meters, significantly smaller than the US RQ-4 Global Hawk, which has a wingspan of 40 meters. The Global Hawk is a strategic reconnaissance aircraft for the US military. For reconnaissance alone, it requires a wingspan of 40 meters. But what about the Jiutian? It claims to be a versatile platform for reconnaissance plus strike plus swarm plus collaborative operations. Despite the size of a US strategic reconnaissance platform, it attempts to pack in the capabilities of fighter jets and bombers. The Global Hawk can fly at an altitude of 18,000 meters with a range of 22,000 kilometers, capable of flying from Hawaii to the Middle East and back without issue. But the Jiutian, it has a range of only 7,000 kilometers and flies 3,000 meters lower. It's fair to say it doesn't fly high, doesn't fly far, it's huge in size, and has no pilot. Once it enters a combat zone, it essentially becomes a moving target. Yet it dares to call itself an aerial aircraft carrier. If the US were to truly develop an aerial drone mothership, how large would it need to be? But the US doesn't go that route because, as they know, bigger planes don't necessarily mean better performance, and having all the features doesn't guarantee effectiveness in combat. The Chinese government still claims that the Jiutian drone is stealthy. But just take a look. Its exposed tail nozzles, external pods, and messy electronics modules. In the end, this is typical of the CCP's military-industrial boasting. Performance relies on stacked specifications, flights are based on animations, good enough for drills, acceptable for parades. The rest is left to Weibo trending, state-run CCTV military programs, and fund managers in the military-industrial sector. If it weren't for Beijing's constant control over public opinion, brainwashing people every day, in any normal country's military enthusiast forum, the Jiutian would have been thoroughly criticized by now. The Jiutian is just a giant FPV throwaway drone. When it comes to the core selling point of the Jiutian, the Chinese propaganda department throws out a slogan: "Swarm attacks winning the future." An aerial mothership flies into the battlefield, opens its belly, and hundreds of small drones swarm out, launching blanket strikes, air defense suppressions, electronic jamming, and targeted missions. The problem is, reality is far from that. According to CCTV, these so-called swarm sub-drones, which are essentially 100 FPV suicide drones or cruise missiles, have a range generally between 10 to 30 kilometers. Some of them don't even fly as far as DJI civilian drones. This means that to deploy these small drones, the Jiutian mothership must fly within 30 kilometers of enemy targets, if not closer. For modern air defense systems, the Jiutian is essentially very vulnerable. The Jiutian flies at an altitude of 15,000 meters, roughly 50,000 feet. That's somewhat higher than a typical commercial airliner, but according to CCP state media, even THAAD can't reach the Jiutian. That's truly an exaggeration. Forget about THAAD and Patriot systems, just Russia's Buk and TOR systems, China's Sky Dragon and the US's Sea Sparrow and NASAMS, along with all air-to-air missiles, which one of them couldn't take down the Jiutian large drone. This thing flies at a slow speed of 700 kilometers per hour, slower than a Boeing 737, with a massive radar cross-section. THAAD, Terminal High Altitude Area Defense, is designed to intercept ballistic missiles. It's not meant for shooting down aircraft. It intercepts at an altitude of 150,000 meters, which is 10 times the flight altitude of the Jiutian. As for swarm attacks, if you really want to use them on the battlefield, there are a few crucial conditions that need to be met. Drones need to be able to identify and locate each other, automatically assign roles, who attacks, who jams, who scouts, all that needs to be figured out. Dynamic obstacle avoidance and flight path planning must be achievable. Target identification, numbering, and task assignment are also essential. Finally, they must be able to maintain signal strength even in electromagnetic jamming environment. All of this relies on chip plus algorithms to operate, not just using a remote control for command. Can a small FPV drone fit AI co-processing chips with these capabilities? What about power consumption, heat dissipation, and resistance to interference? These are all difficult challenges. The US military's FPV drones are already deploying dedicated neural network modules and FPGA platforms with prices starting from 500 to 2,000 US dollars per unit. They also require satellite communication, infrared sensors, and tactical network nodes. Meanwhile, the cost of a single Chinese FPV drone is only a few thousand yuan. Can they really fit all these advanced technologies inside? Not to mention, the current Jiutian display models are equipped with lightweight suicide drones that are even missing basic components like GPS modules. Forget about carrying 100 drones. Even if it could carry 1,000, there'd still just be 1,000 flying bombs with no intelligence. The exterior of Jiutian is hard to describe in a few words. The design of military aircraft is never about aesthetics, it's about life and death. Now, take a look at the design of the Jiutian. The rear is bulky, as if an old engine was hastily welded onto it. The air intake is exposed on the side. The electronic warfare pods are mounted externally on both sides of the belly, clearly cobbled together. The body lines are chaotic, the belly is bloated, and the hatch design looks more like a cargo container. The entire aircraft looks less like a combat platform and more like a failed wind tunnel experiment that was simply brought to an air show. Now compare it to the US military's RQ-4 Global Hawk. The air intake is designed on the back, avoiding radar's direct line of sight. The fuselage has a streamlined integrated structure with a minimal radar cross-section. All sensors, pods, and modules are internally mounted. The overall design is compact, symmetrical, and aerodynamically stable. You can instantly see the difference. The Global Hawk is built for warfare, while the Jiutian is just a showpiece for exhibitions. What's more important is that the Chinese Jiutian, which claims to be a swarm mothership, has no stealth design for its hatches. It doesn't even have radar wave-cutting angles on its wing edges. What does this mean in modern aerial combat? It means that before you even get close to the battlefield, you already be glowing like a Christmas tree on the enemy's radar screen. Look at the design of the stealth bomber B-2 or the F-35. They are built for one thing, to complete the mission before the enemy can even lock onto you. Now look at the Jiutian. The tail nozzle looks like a gas canister, the pods resemble delivery boxes, and the lines look like industrial plastic barrels. It's like writing, "I'm a target," on the fuselage. In the field of military drones, being ugly is not a style, it's a flaw. It's not a coincidence, it's a sign of being outdated. The Jiutian design is not just an aesthetic failure, it's a collective collapse of the design system, engineering collaboration, manufacturing capabilities, radar technology, and electronic warfare experience. State-run CCTV is being stubborn and the military is being evasive. Even their own people won't say it's combat ready. In the propaganda from state media, CCTV, and People's Daily, the Jiutian aircraft is portrayed as a future centerpiece of aerial combat, a swarm warfare platform, a key step in breaking the US military's technological blockade. They're hyping it up as if it's a flagship from Star Wars. But the problem is, the closer people are to the core, the more vague they become. For example, a Tencent military columnist was firm in refuting foreign media doubts, but the actual content revealed the truth. Currently, the Jiutian development team is facing challenges such as how to improve its survivability in high-altitude combat and ensure the drone swarm's coordination capability. It has not yet reached a practical level. Pay attention to a few key phrases. Survivability is still unresolved. Coordination capability is still a challenge. Not yet practical. This is a direct death sentence. This is a roundabout way of admitting this thing can't fly yet. Now let's take a look at CCTV's military program, where the host invited a military analyst, Mr. Zhang Xuefen. This expert said with a straight face, whether it's a small drone or a loitering munition, there is a problem. Their combat range is relatively short. If you want to strike deep target objectives, the difficulty is quite high. There is a high-altitude swarm release video circulating online. A Jiutian takes off, opens its belly, and dozens of white dots fly out in a hurry. No trajectory tracking, no strike footage, no target identification system data feedback. It's like releasing a bunch of glowing balloons. Even those Chinese science popularization accounts claiming to have a military industrial background are starting to backpedal. Coordination algorithms are still under development. Anti-jamming tests have not been completed. Most of the swarm intelligence is still based on simulated environments. To sum it up in one sentence, the logic of Chinese military propaganda is as follows. External propaganda needs to be strong, internal propaganda needs to be soft. CCTV needs to be aggressive, online forum needs to be cautious. Public opinion rises, get the military to hold them back. On Weibo, it said that the Jiutian is the disruptor of future warfare, but the military academy's report states the experimental conditions are immature and it is not yet suitable for high-intensity combat scenarios. If they don't even believe in themselves, how can they expect anyone else to? They're hyping it as an aerial mothership, but what they're really cutting is the ground-level chives. If the Jiutian aircraft is only a half-finished product in military terms, its functions in the capital markets is quite complete. It's a plane designed to trade stocks. Since CCTV released the news of the Jiutian aircraft's upcoming first flight, the military-industrial stock market immediately exploded. Military public accounts mobilized across the board, starting to make promises. Financial hot list followed suit, calling the world's first aerial mothership. Even People's Daily and Xuexi Qianguo mentioned it on their technological strengthening of the military special. From the publicity rhythm to market hype, it all fits together like a military-industrial spring festival gala combined with a brokerage roadshow. And following the hype, there is a slew of concept stocks. Xia Qida, known as the aircraft final assembly unit, saw its stock price skyrocket the moment the news broke. Hanfa Power, which supplies the turbofan engines for the Jiutian, was hailed as a domestic heart breakthrough. Guangqi Technologies, billed as a meta-material supplier, was directly lifted to become the leading stock in drone skins. There was also a slew of peripheral stock touting Beidou navigation, swarm communication, and modular cabin segments, all riding the cocktail of the hype. Some financial accounts directly wrote headlines like Jiutian's first flight successful, military-industrial orders surpassed 10 billion. There's even crazier. Central Huijing Investment, 152 institutions heavily invest and the future output value exceeds 200 billion in the next 5 years. This doesn't sound like a discussion about a weapon system. It more resembles the preparation for the next round of a Zhongji-style capital story. If you claim this is a military equipment, why are listed companies getting so excited? If you say this is a research experiment, why are fund managers nationwide rushing to invest? In simple terms, this is just a well-established process within the Chinese military-industrial system. PPT creates the military equipment, CCTV does the packaging, the stock market comes to reap the rewards. The Jiutian is just the latest card in this show. The irony is even greater. Its flight data has not been actually tested. Its swarm deployment has not exercised records. Its coordination algorithms haven't even been fully verified, but its stock price is soaring higher than the aircraft itself. Its market value increase far exceeds its flight altitude. This is the true picture of the Chinese military-industrial system. Whether the weapon can be used in combat doesn't matter. The stock price must be able to hit the limit. The counterfeit origins of the Chinese drone system. The CCP has been developing drones for more than just a day or two. As early as 2006, when the US military's MQ-1 Predator made a name for itself in the Middle East, Beijing set its sights on the new business. Thus, China's first generation of knockoff drones was born, codename Rainbow Series. In 2013, the CH-4 Rainbow 4 made its first flight. By 2014, it was publicly revealed. Shortly after, it was deployed in real combat and entered the export market. But anyone familiar with military aircraft could see right through it. The aircraft's structure, wing proportion, and the positioning of the electro-optical pods are nearly identical to the Predator. The mounting interfaces, missile specifications, and even direct compatibility with US military standards. Some military enthusiasts joke that it's a copy hunter, and the analogy couldn't be more fitting. What's even more absurd is that the early promotional blueprints for the Rainbow series simply swapped out the US military's interface with a Chinese shell and put it out. This isn't inspiration, it's reverse engineering with a fresh coat of paint. Using the same approach, but with a high-end positioning, came the Wing Lung series. The Wing Lung 1 made its debut at the 2012 Zhuhai Air Show, and it was immediately recognized by global military analysts as a simplified version of the MQ-9. The Wing Lun 2 attempts to surpass the Reaper in terms of payload capacity and communication capabilities, but it still relies on ground-based remote controls, lacks independent missile modules, and has poor resistance to interference and networking capabilities. It can only perform tactical harassment missions like attacking trucks. No matter how much it's hyped, it's still just a remote-controlled bomb truck. High-altitude segments from the D-21 to the RQ-170, none of them are spared. In 2011, the US military's RQ-170 crashed in Iran. Before the US could react, China's technological cooperation team was already in Iran, stealing blueprints, dimensions, and structural details. The subsequent drones that appeared all happened to look strikingly similar to the US's military's Flying Wing family. WZ-8 claimed to be high-altitude, high-speed stealth, but in reality it's still in the prototype demonstration stage. Its aerodynamic layout is highly similar to the RQ-180, and many of its parameters are still filled in with animations. The Attack 11 GJ11, at first glance, is a carbon copy of the RQ-170 Flying Wing. The stealth structure and rear-mounted engines are highly similar, but its range and fire control systems are said to have been severely reduced. Another high-altitude long-endurance platform, the Xianglong, also known as WZ-10, is essentially a standard RQ-4 Global Hawk assembly. The wings are long, the fuselage is humped, and it has a dorsal air intake, essentially a one-to-one appearance clone. Initially intended as a strategic reconnaissance platform, it later shifted focus to long-range maritime surveillance. As a result, it has seen very few real combat drills, with its appearances mostly limited to parades and joint border patrol exercises with the Coast Guard. Is the Xianglong not enough? No problem, the CCP just modifies it to have the Jiutian drone mothership. The exterior is modeled after the Xianglong. The internal functions are a mix of the MQ-9's bombs and electronic pods. The coordination strategy is copied from US's military swarm attack research papers. The chip system is a patchwork of domestic self-research and makeshift civilian components. Finally, it's repackaged and publicly launched with high-profile announcement from CCTV, turning it into the world's first aerial mothership. But what's the truth? This isn't a future platform. It's a product of past work stacked together. From day one, China's drone system has never followed an innovative path. Its strategy is copy the US's military. Shoot a video, get it trending, and add a CCTV voiceover, we've surpassed the US. But the real combat results are flight performance is unstable, the control system relies on civilian communication and network patches, chips depend on imports, and once sanctioned hits, it all comes to a halt. Battlefield performance is virtually non-existent, relying on parade to showcase its presence. What the CCP fears most is not the US revealing its cards, but the US not saying anything at all. In recent years, the most obvious feature of Chinese military propaganda has been, if it can be shown, it must be shown. From aircraft carriers, missiles, anti-ship weapons to the current Jiutian drone mothership, every time China develops a conceptual weapon, it comes with several rounds of promotional videos, animated GIFs, 3D animations, expert analysis, followed by stock market boost and policy briefings. Military industry turns into a showcase and parades becomes product launch events. Why is it so eager to show off? Simply put, it's because of a lack of security and insecurity. Why the insecurity? Because it hasn't actually confronted the US in a real showdown, while the US never brags or leaks military secrets. Take the Midnight Hammer strike on Iran nuclear facilities, where the US and Israel jointly took out the Fordo bunker, turning a nuclear facility hundreds of meters underground into ashes. Yet, the information released by the West was minimal. There were no flashy satellite images, no 3D animation presentations, and they weren't even willing to clearly say, "We did it." What was the result? No nuclear contamination, no leaks, the target was completely eliminated. This kind of silent strike instills a fear of uncertainty in the CCP. It can't assess which technologies the US military truly controls or whether it has deployed immune weapon systems capable of targeting China's nuclear facilities. It's this situation China boasts about its drone mothership and the US doesn't say a word. It showcases its Dongfeng missiles and the US stays silent, but at any moment something never seen before could come out. That's what truly terrifies the CCP. The heavy hype around the Jiutian as an aerial drone mothership actually exposes the core anxiety of the CCP. On the surface, it's meant to deter the West, but in reality, it's a way to comfort itself. The Jiutian carries not a tactical breakthrough, but a political anxiety. It's not designed for warfare, but for making an appearance. The moment it takes off, it's not the rise of military capability, but the peak of a nation creating an illusion. And the most dangerous part is the CCP may truly believe in its own narrative, thinking that animated videos can win wars, PowerPoint presentations can deter the US military, and boasting can reclaim Taiwan.